So I will now turn into to Magda to continue the presentation.
So as you can see, I chose a rather optimistic title, and this is made on purpose. Let's see how it ends. But first of all, why do you think you are here? What are your expectations? What do you think we will talk about? Because expectations are really important. Just a few comments.
I think I can find easy and available sets that I can use in the daily life that I don't. And I'm not like too unique to me.
Okay. Great. What else? Yes.
We need to have a good news.
Good news, yeah, we all need good news. Great, we will talk about news as well. What else? Any other thoughts?
We need how we can manage zero waste of the IT.
Okay, great. Okay.
Maybe Magda can repeat it for the people.
Okay, so some ideas here is so if we can implement zero waste on IT, some ideas. Also finding new ways maybe to apply sustainable actions to daily life, and also finding some good news. Great, so let's see. First thing, is the future better than we think? That's a question I am asking you. Let's be sincere. Well, who thinks it's better than we think? Raise your hand. And who thinks it's worse? Who thinks it's worse than we think? So there's more people thinking that it's worse. Okay, that's a good starting point. And this is one of the reasons why I chose this title. So, how do you feel about the future? If you had to say one word, a feeling, something.
Like if it was city.
Again, sorry. I didn't hear the word. Anxiety?
No, anxious.
Anxiety, yes. Okay, yeah, me too. What else? Worried. You feel worried. Okay. What else? What comes to your mind? First word?
Scared.
You feel scared. Okay. Any other words? Okay, no one said optimistic. Great. Let's continue. What is future for you? What are we talking about? Years? Centuries? What's future for you? Because this is important. Just say something. Will you be alive in the future, or
No.
so future for you is years ago and years ahead, but you still be alive in the future. It's something you will go through. Okay. Have you seen this image before? This is really new stuff, and it's based on the IPCC synthesis report, which is a report that appeared just 1 month ago, and it's the most important report created by scientists about climate change. And this graphic is really important because it explains really easily and visually something that is really difficult to understand for many people, which is the consequences of global warming, but in a human scale. So if you were born somewhere in the 80s, by the time you are 70 years old, 2015, this is more or less the future emission scenarios that we will find. And of course, this is only colors, but it's easy to understand that the future scenarios we were talking about belong to our life. And this is super important to understand. Why? we will talk about it. As I said, this report was launched 1 month ago, and it's one of the most important data that has been issued in terms of science and climate change. Like scientists from all over the world have been working on this for years, and I will be using some of the information in the press release of this report during the presentation to come back and forth of the problems and solutions we will talk about. So let's keep this in mind. One of the things of the report says is that the choices you make in the next few years will play a critical role in deciding our future and the future of the generations to come. And by next few years, we are talking about the next 7 years. So the future basically is being created now. It's not something that, I don't know, in Spain we say we kick the ball forward, and we keep kicking the ball forward. So no, this is something that is happening right now. 2020 to 2030 has been called the decade of action, basically because it's crucial that whatever we do during the next day will affect, the next years will affect mostly how things will go for the next decades. So, what's involved is the term action, because basically this is the most important thing to do. I have put special interest in the role of technology, both in the problems and the solutions, because we are in a tech company, and also because it plays a great role in being optimistic or pessimistic. Do you know about this guy, Peter Diamandis? Has someone heard of it? Okay, so I took the title of the session from one of his books, a book called Abundance, and the subtitle is The Future is Better Than You Think. It was published in 2012, and he has other books. And well, I recommend you that you search information about him, because he's a peculiar guy. He's super optimistic, and he's kind of a guru of Silicon Valley. Okay, he's a Greek American and a serial entrepreneur. So apart from books, he has created the X Prize. He was involved in something called Singularity University. I don't know if you heard about it. Well, you can start by a couple of TEDs made by him. They are super interesting. But he's involved in human longevity, the space race. It's a little bit like Elon Musk, like he's picking things here and there and investing in many things. But he has a really interesting point of view about things. And so I wanted to start with him because he is someone that could be called the techno-optimist. So he's the kind of guy that thinks that thanks to technology we will save the world. This is a point of view, and you can agree or not, but it's a good starting point because I want to know your opinion about it. 5 ideas that I like about Peter Diamandis. The first one is that the world is constantly changing, and those people working on technology know that maybe more than anyone. Especially, everything is not about AI right now, but AI is a good example of how things are changing so fast. So we live in a changing world, and this sometimes creates anxiety because we cannot keep up with all the things that happen, and that's a reality, and we have to live with it. Second thing is that converging exponential technologies are now accelerating and empowering people to solve the world's problems. This is super good. So if we go 10 years ago, the internet was not that developed. CD printing, many collaborative tools were not that developed. So technology has helped in so many ways, and it has become cheaper and cheaper. So now someone from rural India can access the internet and access so many informations and tutorials on YouTube that he or she can learn to do whatever with low-tech technology that is available worldwide. And this has changed many things. So this is a positive thing about technology. Another thing is that normally we have this sense that the world is worse every day. But so many things have improved, like poverty and life expectation, mm, the age of when infants die in development countries. So many indicators have improved in the current years, and sometimes we are not aware of that. So it's not everything is not bad, but still there's a lot of problems. So another thing is, and we talked about news, that media feed our mind with negative stories because they know that this is what gets our attention. And this is something that is related to how our brain works. So our brain responds more to bad news, to violence, than to good news. That's why in journalists, they say good news, no news. And if it bleeds, it leads. And this is super cruel, but this is how it works. And media, social media, and also, for example, the advertisement industry, they know that the human brain has not evolved in thousands of years, and we still react to the most negative and emotional things. And this is something we have to be aware of. And if we don't want to be affected by the negativity of media, we have to put ourselves on a media diet and really select what we get information from. This is very important. And I studied journalism, by the way, so this is something that I've been thinking about a lot. And finally, another interesting point from Peter Diamandis is that he talks about abundance. Normally, we approach problems from a scarcity point of view. And so it's more like we are like this. We feel tiny, we feel helpless. But if we switch our mind to a mindset of abundance, what we find is opportunities where there is scarcity. And he always repeats that technology is a liberating force for positive change to happen. But so this is some ideas I wanted to share. But of course, maybe you are thinking of the other side of technology. And for that, I selected a tweet. So how can we ensure that all this tech is used for good? Because this is like, like a Spider-Man saying that every superpower has to have a responsibility behind it. Like this works for Marvel and DC, but it also works for the real world. How can we ensure that? Who owns the technology? Who has access to the technology? How expensive it is? So, do you know about Yuval Noah Harari? He wrote a book called Sapiens that I strongly recommend, and other books that are also incredible to understand about history and humanity. And he's so into AI right now. He is one of the great minds that has said stop AI big experiments because we still don't know where it leads. And he has this tweet that I love, that for every dollar and every minute we invest in improving artificial intelligence, it would be wise to invest a dollar and a minute in advancing human consciousness. So if we invent technology, I agree with him that we should apply the same efforts on ethics that we apply to tech development, because otherwise we cannot control where technology leads. this is for some debate. Then we can see another side of the world, which is the main sentence about climate change is that emissions should be cut to a half in 7 years in order to avoid limiting, in order to avoid that we reach 1.5 warming of the planet. So this might sound a little bit abstract for people that don't work on science, but cutting half of the world's emissions in 7 years, it's quite a challenge. So we were being positive until now, but now we go to the other side. What has been done so far is totally insufficient to reach this goal, and we know that. Maybe during the pandemic we stopped for a while, but then we continued as life as usual and business as usual. And this is another important thought is that years ago when we talked about saving the planet, we were talking about let's stop harming the planet. But this is not enough. Now, stopping to harm the planet is like aiming for a 10 in the exam and getting a 5. So if we want to get a 10, we have to do something more than just harming the planet. That's why the experts say that it's not about avoiding the worst effects or the consequences of climate change and climate warming, but we have to talk about how we adapt to the effects of it right now, not in the future. And so I won't talk a lot about the problems because I don't want this to be a pessimistic talk. Let's talk about solutions and action. I will be quoting the IPCC report with some interesting sentences. They say there are multiple feasible and effective options to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and adapt to human cost, climate change, and they are available now. So this is a good point. It's not that we have to invent new things. We already have what it takes to create the solutions. And if they say that, I believe it. Another thing is that we are constantly talking about emissions, but this is not the only thing to solve. So these are the famous stripes showing global warming through the years. And this one talks about biodiversity loss. And you can see that there's a correlation between one thing and the other. So even though we talk about emissions, there are other things that we have to address, but they are strongly linked to one another. And of course, one of the ways we can think about things to do is going to the UN and talking about the Sustainable Development Goals, which is like the general route for humanity, not only to avoid climate change, but also to create peace and prosperity both for humanity and the planet. Sounds perfect. The thing is that the goal started in 2015, and of course the deadline is also 2030. Again, in 7 years. And I don't know if you're familiar with the goals, but every company use this as a reference to say in which fields they are working on. For example, for my company, my goals are generally helping to build sustainable cities and communities, and also I work a lot on responsible consumption and production. But in some ways, I apply to 13, 14, and 15 as well. So every goal also has different targets and, what is more important, indicators so it can be measured. Because if it cannot be measured, then it's useless. Let's talk about 5 key main challenges And for every challenge, I have picked up one solution that I find inspiring, and every solution is different. And I'd like to know what you think about. But first, the solutions were picked from this prize. Have you heard about this prize? This is one of the biggest prizes that has been organized to promote innovation and solve like the world's challenges. And it's led by the Royal English family. Uh, I'm not gonna talk about this, but as a prize, it's super good. And the people that has behind it are uh, expert of the first level. Only to say that, do you know about the ex-prime minister of New Zealand? It was a woman. Well, she quit because she was exhausted with her work, and she joined the prize. And so, first challenge is protect and restore nature. Second challenge is clean our air. Third challenge is revive our oceans. Fourth is build a waste-free world. And sixth is fix our climate. So, how do you imagine these solutions to be? Before I show them to you, how do you think uh, this can be? It's just an exercise of imagination.
Reduce human impact.
Okay, they reduce human impact in some ways. Okay. What else?
I don't think it's really the word for it, but there is a croissance growth.
It's
Croissance growth. And then
Like croissants.
okay,
you have to
growth.
go you have to start.
Okay. Stop it or degrowth.
At least
Okay. Yes.
For me, space traveling.
Space traveling, so we leave planet Earth,
Yes.
like Elon Musk.
forbid
Okay.
it. Like
Forbid it.
Forbid space traveling.
Like,
Yeah, tell that to people in California. They are obsessed with. Yeah. Okay. Great. What else? I like your ideas.
people pay.
Make people pay.
Yeah, the one with the wrong behavior that help this kind of issues. You have to
Okay.
pay one.
Okay.
I also believe that there is like a lot of legislation to do because we can like, for example, there is like a lot of things we can do also,
Mhm.
but it's like depending on how we think, it's really hard to control it. Like for example, we talked about Indonesia, like it's how our brain works. So
Yeah.
if we see like a shiny fast food ad, our brain will want it.
Okay.
So it's not like only up to the world. And the solution for that is we can always teach the legitimate vibe of the solution is to like follow it. So like laws that can change it.
Okay. Any else?
We should have of the health and the situation of nature and animals because they're just the export for human interest.
Okay. Great. I don't know if you're going to be surprised by the solutions. I'm going to show you the solutions and one first prize for every category. But first, any solution should be locally appropriate because we have different realities in different parts of the world. It has to be affordable, well financed, put the money where it has to be fair, replicable, and scalable. This is just some of the things that a solution should have. Let's go with the first one. So, first prize for this category was for this with this company. It's called Keti. They are from India, and basically what they have done is that they have affordable greenhouses for small farmers in India. Why? Basically because they have seen that because of climate change, it's even always harder to be safe in terms of harvesting. And this is not something from India. I don't know if you have heard the news about Catalonia and how they are cutting water from uh, from fields in Lleida. This is happening this week. So we all eat every day, and we have to be safe about creating our food, but also the millions of people that rely on farms as a way of living. So the first prize was for this man. They have been doing different versions of the greenhouse for several years, and this is the last one. And basically, they have been innovating about the materials, so they have a solution that is scalable and affordable for small farmers. And so this is just an example of how solutions can look like. Um, and when we talk about nature, and this question is very important. So we always talk about biodiversity loss and how we are losing the Amazon rainforest. But if we change the mindset, instead of thinking about how can we stop forests from disappearing, we can ask how can we make them grow. And of course, one popular solution for years has been planting trees. But more important than planting trees is not cutting them. And sometimes this is not said as it should be. So if you put yourself into this mindset, then you have regeneration. Regeneration, many companies are focusing on regeneration because it's telling yourself, I'm not going to leave the planet as I found it. I am going to leave a planet that is going to be better than the one that I found it. And this mindset, it's very important to aim for more than we normally want to achieve. And so, second challenge, clean our air. The solution is a stove. Why? Because we have our super cool kitchen, but millions of people in the world still cook in dirty stoves, burning coal. And this is not safe, and you can inhale toxics. So the solution is just a safe, affordable stove for people that doesn't even have a kitchen. And these kind of solutions I think are interesting because they remind us that the average human being doesn't have our level of well-being and material stuff. So when we talk about solutions, we talk about solutions that are going to improve millions of people's lives. And I like to see those solutions because they remind me that I am not the center of the world. And you can understand quickly the impact of solutions like this for millions and millions of people. But we don't have to go to Africa. In 2020, the Barcelona Public Health Agency said that around 1,000 people die every year in Barcelona of natural death because of excess pollution in the air. So maybe we're not going to be one of these 1,000 people, but still, this is something that is happening in our city as well. So it's still a challenge, even for rich cities. Again, the IPCC report said that the economic benefits of people's health from air quality improvements alone would be roughly the same or possibly even larger than the costs of reducing or avoiding emissions. So clean air is not a small challenge. When it comes to the oceans, they are super important because they regulate the climate. The solution was this one. It's a network of indigenous women that work as rangers. Why? Because in Australia, indigenous peoples have been there for 60,000 years. 60,000 years is a lot of time. They have all the knowledge about how the land works. So they combine the wisdom of the indigenous people with new technologies to care about the land and 10 minutes? Okay. And improve the environment. All of this to say that the world is interconnected, both humans and ecosystems, and sometimes the solutions we imagine have different shapes of the ones that have more impact. And for building a waste-free world, about waste exists because of bad design and because we don't value the resources that we use. And in these terms, recycling is not good enough because we are only focusing on the end of the process. So before something is turned into trash, there's many things we can do. But above all this, we have to rethink and redesign almost every product and service we have, so it's sustainable from the source. And this is where we find the circular economy. And this is why economy is so important. Because in a linear economy, we just take resources, make stuff, use them, and create waste. But in a circular economy, we redesign everything, so waste is out of the system and nothing goes to trash. Of course, to create this, we have to rethink and repurpose and redesign almost everything we have and change many things. This is the prize winner. It's a company that basically creates things with seaweed, algae. And for example, you can drink water without a bottle. You just drink the whole sphere and you eliminate packaging. This is a way to rethink produce and also use a resource that is abundant and renewable. So this is another example of how a solution can look like. And for fixing our climate, this is really interesting. There's a guy from Oman that has discovered that they can sequester CO2 in the form of a mineral called peridotite and put it under the earth. And his solution has attracted many attention. So what do you think about these solutions? Were things that you expected? It's not maybe what you said, but of course there are many solutions. I just want to put some examples. Yeah.
Well, I do believe that every action is very important because it's like, I don't know what I saw it, but the idea of a bath is water going into it.
Mm-hmm.
And every time we reduce a bit the flow of water, it's like it's time gain. But it feels like it's still not enough, like it's a little bit of water.
Yeah, some of these solutions search for impact, like big impact, so they affect millions of people, and it doesn't has to rely on individual action, which is important, but there's something more needed to accelerate it because again we are talking about 7 years deadline.
I agree with that. I think especially for France, it was a really good solution, but the politicals doesn't favorize it because it favorises like capitalism, and there's a problem with it. So, well, we can.
Yeah, capitalism is another issue, but we could maybe do another session only focusing on that. So again, this is what solutions should look like, and what does all this has to do with me? Well, first of all, I'd like to say that pessimism and guilt from a rational point of view, they are not useful. Why? Because when we feel like this, we stop taking action because we think that it's useless. So that's not useful. And my recommendation, focus on what can be done. So you fight anxiety and you feel part of the solution because we need urgent action. So raise your hand if you are alive. Okay? You live in this planet. Great. Are you part of the economy? Yes. So you can be part of the solution. I'm not trying to be naive, really. I give a lot of thought around this. So why? Because focus on the things you do every day. We all eat, we all shop, we all use energy, we all move around, we all think more or less, but we all think, and we all have access to information. Even we are a little bit intoxicated, and that's another problem. So this gives us power, small power, but the thing is that if we focus on what we do, it's small. But if we focus on many people doing the same thing, this is when change happens. So my suggestion is vote with your money, vote with your core, both with your time and with your attention. So you can choose. There's so many micro actions that we do every day with the power they have, and we don't value them because we feel really small. But for example, you can take your money from a bank that invests in fossil fuels and put it in a bank that does not invest in fossil fuels. Yes.
I fully agree with you, but some people doesn't have the choice to their consumption because they are poor or I don't know, and they don't have solutions. So what can we do with this one?
Then we can try to give them access to information.
Yeah.
Information to the choices that are available for them. So that's why I said focus on the things that you can do. And one of the things you can do is share information then with people that doesn't have this information. And this can be life-changing. The same with your food. One of the things to fight climate change is to change our diet to a more plant-based one. We can do that every day. It's not about not eating a hamburger ever again. It's about eating less hamburgers. And I won't tell everyone to go vegan. Just try to be more flexitarian. That's enough. Because we are here to be happy as well. And it's important to remember. Both with your time. What are you going to do with your time? Sometimes I do infinite scroll on TikTok, and this is fine, and I find good content there, but I can choose to read some insights and articles about climate change from time to time, or watch a documentary instead of a series on Netflix. And also both with your attention, because as we said, we live in a world with media focusing on negative thoughts, so choose where you put your attention on. Of course, these actions have to be backed with good decisions from decision makers, good investments, and good use of tech. And so my positive thinking comes with the fact that we have all the ingredients to create a good future for everyone. We are an intelligent species. We have creativity and the ability to collaborate. If you read *Sapiens* from Yuval Noah Harari, this is a really interesting thing. We have data. We have had data for decades. We have technology, and this is my question mark: do we have enough ethics? Well, this is something I'm not sure about. But basically, the future can be better than we think, And of course, there's some people with more power than others, but we can play our part. And that's all from us.